Dominika, how's it going?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I am doing wonderful. And so today, if you're watching, we're on the we're talking with Dominika Staniewicz. Did I get that
Yes,
correct?
awesome.
All
You
right.
got it. You got it. Absolutely.
And so she is a coach for neuroencoding. Did I get that correct?
Close. I'm
Okay.
a neuroencoding specialist and a founder member of a Neuroencoding Institute, and I'm a brain coach certified by Dr. Amen.
Yeah, and I got a chance to go in and do some reading and some watching with some of the videos, and it's very interesting to me as a salesperson, specifically as a business owner, because um, when you get into the business owner mindset, there's a lot of stuff that comes through that is, could be just earth-shaking news on a day-to-day basis that you have to make decisions on. And so before we get into the meat of the conversation, tell us a little bit about how you got to Houston.
So, how I got to Houston is a very long story, and it used all my knowledge I ever had in life, actually. So, I moved from Europe. I was raised in the US and I lived in California. And then I moved back to Europe, not because I wanted to, but because my parents kicked me out back to Europe. I was a very difficult teenager. Let's just put it very mildly. And then at age of 40, a lot of things happened in Europe, and I decided to go back home, which is US.
Mhm.
I ended up back in California. And then after about 3 years building myself up from ground up with, starting from scratch, I was like, okay, I'm ready to buy a house. And I looked at the prices in California. I'm like, I am not paying my whole life for a house and not living my life. Doesn't make any sense because the places I liked were in 800,000, 900,000 range. And they were in like not big houses, 2 bedrooms. We're not going over the top here, but just in an area that I would want to live. So I did my research and I chose 10 cities, and then I did a road trip and I took into account economy, into account diversity, education, development, cultural aspects, a lot of things. And from those 10 cities, I would go with my daughters and we would travel. And we would get a feel and a vibe for a city, and we ended up with 3 cities. And then my friend from Upland, California, we went to high school together, lives here, got married to a Texan, Houstonian, and she's very happy. She kind of welcomed me and showed me a little bit more. And Kevin, who's 24th century real estate broker, he basically said, hey, let's find you a house. And I ended up in Cyprus, and it was going against actually Austin, but Austin lost due to the fact it's like a little village that blew up to be a town.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw that all the big companies are moving, I know what happened in San Francisco. It's not a livable place. It's a beautiful place to visit with gorgeous views and parks and history, and it's gorgeous. But to live there, it is extremely, extremely challenging. I'm like, I'm not doing this to myself. I just left California to avoid that, not to be in a town that's going to look like, San Francisco in a few years. So I ended up in Houston.
Wonderful. Yeah. It's Austin is a wonderful city
Yes.
to go and visit. And I love I lived out there for a little bit, and it's such a nice town. And I think a lot of the cities in Texas are just, there's a lot of cities in Texas I love to visit. And then Houston, just in terms of the economic opportunity, there's so many things to do here that are
Yes.
relatively unknown until you kind of dig deep and find it. And I love the city so much. So it's very interesting. So Austin was one of the cities. What was the other two that you're looking at?
Another one was Pennsylvania, due to things that are happening there. And I was looking also at Grand Rapids because there were beautiful houses right at the lake for a very, very nice price. And if you would have a speedboat, you can just get to Chicago via lake.
Mhm.
I'm Polish. I don't like snow when I don't have to. It's not my choice. I love snowboarding, but then it's my choice.
Mhm.
So when the snow was falling and you're a single mom shuffling snow, that's not my choice. So those kind of went like, nah, I'll take the summer and I'll take the humidity. You look younger when it's humid, your skin is moist, you don't get wrinkles. I mean, all positives.
Mhm. So have you always been in the neuroencoding space, or did you transition to that from another role? Like how did you transition into becoming a coach and working with within that space?
So I was a coach in Europe, but I worked with people that are transitioning in their career and doing career. So I was a job coach. I was
Mhm.
working with them transitioning from one role to another, which is much more difficult in Europe than it is in US. And it literally is a 2-3 year process. It's not like here you go to school, you get a new degree, and you have a chance of getting a job. Over there, it doesn't work like this. So that was what I was doing. I went through my own transformation for about 10 years. I was working on myself and I still am, but there was a time for about 9 years total. I was working on me and going, okay, this life, what I'm getting is not what I want. There has to be more out there or I'm doing something wrong. And I always believe that if you make a mistake once, it happens. Yet if the same situation happens over and over again, then it's you, not the world. So I had to look deep inside of myself, go, okay, so why am I attracting what I'm attracting? Who am I that kind of draws in people and things that are not what I want? So the process began. And I came back to US, started from scratch, as I said. And it was the first time in my life I worked for somebody. I've never worked for anybody. This was a huge ego challenge, let's just say, and a change. And I was looking to get back into having my own business, yet building community, building relationships, getting to know people. Because in Europe, I knew everybody. I could pick up the phone and have everything done. Here, I'm a known name, at least at this point, or at least not many people know of me. So I am a Tony Robbins girl. I attend Tony Robbins events. I also crew as a volunteer. I help people. And that space kind of started developing because you meet people with a certain mindset and a certain way of approaching life. And at Tony Robbins events, there is a phenomenal psychologist, and he has a PhD. His name is Joseph McClendon III. And Joseph McClendon III created the Neuroencoding Institute. And he combined his training with Dr. Amen. It was a huge package. It wasn't cheap. But what I loved about it is that I like coaching, but I need science. And this is the huge difference between regular coaching and a brain coaching. Because let me ask you this. Do you know you're supposed to exercise? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Do you know you're supposed to eat right?
Yes. Yeah. I know
There you
that. I know that part. But I don't always do it, but
Right. But you're aware of it, right?
yeah, well,
Okay. So
absolutely.
what are you supposed to do for your brain?
Feed it, learn, talk,
You actually
think
have no
about
clue.
mistakes, how you can and then also, I think the food and exercise kind of builds into that as well.
It does. What happens when you lose your memory? Who are you?
It's that's a great question.
Well, the sad answer is that if we don't take care of our brain and we lose our memory and our reference points, we become just a shell. We're not who
Yeah.
we used. We're nobody. We don't exist. Because what makes us is our brain. It's our reference points, our memories, our emotions, people that we know, things that we connect, things that have a meaning to us. If we lose that, we lose our identity. We're
Yeah.
gone. And unfortunately, for many, many years, psychology is super important. Spirituality is super important. Your environment is very important. But what's also important is how your brain functions. And there's no right or wrong functioning of a brain, but how your brain functions. And what is even more important is what do you do to have it at an optimum level? Let's just say that you're depressed. And there's a study that came out not long ago that at least 50% of us were or are depressed at some point in time for a longer or short period of time. Well, what we usually do, we get antidepressants. Brain coaches are the first kind of line of defense against the illnesses that show up. Why? Because there are proven methods that do not require chemicals. Do you know that very often a mistake that we make is that we say we're depressed and actually we're missing ferritin? Literally, we're missing one element in our blood, which makes us tired, sleepy, and all kind of, I feel blah, and we go, oh, I'm depressed. Well, basic thing, check your vitamin D, check your ferritin. If those are even in the norm but low, you will have the anxiety and the feeling of being depressed. So sometimes when we want to help somebody, we need to look at the whole picture of a human. And that's what I do. That's how Dr. Amen trains his coaches. We literally ask you for your blood work. We literally, because if you don't have, it's kind of like building a house without having bricks. If your body is not functioning right, it's going to take much longer to help you. But then there are neuroencoding methods which allow us to, not us, but allow you to program your behaviors. So let's say, what happens when you give somebody a high five? Give me a high five in the, okay. What did you just do?
We connected, at least through the minimal, connection that we can do online here, but, you connected with another human being and you shared a piece of happiness. Happiness.
You smiled. We are literally programmed that when we give somebody high five, we've repeated that motion so many times that we automatically smile. When we smile, we release happy hormones, dopamine, oxytocin, and a few other ones. And we change our biochemistry by our behavior. So those are things that are programmed into us. Now imagine you can do that with everything in your life. You don't have to, like, high five is you do it every day or quite often, that it's just in your brain program. When we give high five, we release happy hormones. We are happy just for that 1 second or few seconds, right? And we connect. You can do exactly the same thing with almost anything in your life, how you react, how you think, how you perceive things. And brain coaching and neuroencoding go beautifully together because it's science, psychology, your environment, your spirituality, and your biology, which cannot be skipped. And I think that's phenomenal because I specialize in happiness. Because after reading all the possible research, all humans actually want to be happy. That's the only thing we actually want. Because when you want money, what that money gives you is happiness, because you can buy things that make you happy or give you a status that make you happy and you look better and you feel better. So again, everything goes back to happiness. And I specialize in happiness because I was so miserable and I didn't fit anywhere. I would attract the wrong people. I was doing in theory the right things and everything just went the wrong way. And I'm sure you've been in a situation where you were kind of like, yeah, I'm doing everything right. What is going not right? What is wrong? And discovering that what is wrong or not wrong, what is my program that I'm running that is not helping me to achieve whatever I want, is exactly what I do.
Yeah, I think we're kind of in, a time period now where a lot of folks are getting to the understanding that food and exercise has a tremendous amount of weight over the health of your just overall being. And I wanted to ask you, your process. So, in a doctor's office, you go and you get diagnosed, and then you work on, fixing that diagnosis. In your space, do you have a situation where someone maybe already has a diagnosis and you're supplementing that
Yes.
either prior to or after that diagnosis? How do you receive clients, and then what's their process as they meet you and then kind of go through helping to, get to that next step, or just having a day, setting a daily routine?
Every client is different, and what we do as brain coaches for Dr. Amen, we're as I said, first line. So before you, for example, Dr. Amen sends somebody on medical treatment, and we all believe in modern medicine, to be very clear.
Mhm.
We're not saying don't take medication. We're not saying don't take antidepressants. We're saying try everything you can first that is natural and has more of a natural feel to it, and all the other methods before you take chemical medications. And we do believe in them, don't get me wrong. So it's not like we're saying, oh, we're going to be all natural and earth is going to help you. No, 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 no. This is the first defense. This is everything you try before you go on the medical treatment with the modern medicine, with the medication. If you are on medication, please do not stop taking the medication. Please do not, because there is a reason why you're on it. Now, you might get a second opinion, but I'm not a doctor. So what we do, we get those people first. We do have diagnostic tools from Dr. Amen and from his research that we run you through. We do ask you to go to your doctor if you're willing and get the blood work done that we need to see where are you in those percentages. So for example, vitamin D3, the levels are usually, the good ones are between 30 and 90. If you're at a 40, they will say you're in the norm. The norm is not the optimum.
Yeah.
So we want you to the optimum. So then I will go, well, I would need you to get your D3 up to level 60. That's where we want you so you can have enough building blocks. We look at your diet. We look at the food that you eat, because as we know, some food has a harmful effect. And actually, if there's a huge, amazing study, I don't deal with people with autism, but there's a huge study of ADHD and autism that keto diet reduces the symptoms as well as with seizures. Kids put on keto diet, and I'm epileptic, so I've researched that pretty well, actually get less seizures if they're on the right food. Now, it is because the neurotransmitters get blocked by some food particles, and what comes from your stomach goes to your brain. Sometimes when there's a blockage, it doesn't go to your brain cannot rebuild, et cetera, et cetera. So that client comes to me, that customer, and we talk and we see if they enjoy talking. That is super important. They got to trust me and I got to trust them. And then we set their plan. And that's the very big difference. What do you want? And usually what you say what you want is really not what you need. Yet I'm not the one telling you that, because at the end of the day, it's your success, not mine. At the end of the day, I am your support system. And yes, you do get homework. Yes, you do have things that you try out and then you observe yourself, because introspectiveness allows you to go quicker. And if we find something that is not serving you, if you choose, we can reprogram it. And there are exercises you do with me that you start the reprogramming, then you repeat that until it becomes a habit, because habits make you who you are. And habits are a reflection of your belief system. And your belief system is actually formed not by you, but by outside forces. And that's something that I've learned a long time ago, that you can be in a situation, emotional situation. I don't know, you're happy, you're unhappy, you're angry, and somebody says something, your brain connects these two things and it becomes your thought.
Mhm.
Your thought that you never had, but because of your emotional, let's say, I wouldn't say awareness, but because of your heightened emotional state, and you hear something, your brain connects those two even without you knowing. Like, for example, when you're crying and somebody says you're stupid, if it was the right moment at the right time, your brain will connect you being stupid with sadness and with crying. So anytime you will be crying, especially when you're a kid, you hear that over and over, you'll connect crying with being stupid. Nobody wants to be stupid, right? And it wasn't your thought. You as a little kid didn't think you're stupid. It didn't even cross your mind. It was somebody told you through their perception, how they see the world, that in their opinion, this behavior in this situation is stupid. And you took it as your own. As kids, we're born literally with no thoughts. It's a feeling of being happy or feeling of being unhappy or feeling of being angry or feeling of being hungry or feeling of being hurt. That's it. All the thoughts are something that we've heard and connected emotionally. And usually it's others people's perception. So if they created that for us, that means we can recreate that for us so it serves us. And it's a phenomenal method, because brain plasticity on its own has been proven that it goes on to your late lifetime. You can reprogram your brain. There are methods that Dr. Amen has that can stop progression of dementia or Alzheimer's. It's the program that we do. It's called Reboot Your Brain and Memory Rescue. Those are two programs that we do. So there are multiple ways that we can work with your brain. We diagnose your brain, and then we start working on things that you believe are the most important to you, that will bring you the most, because it's kind of like we're like boats right now. You know, the wind is blowing and we have those sails up, and wherever the wind blows, we go. There's a chance we will get where we want to get to, but it doesn't depend on what we're doing. It depends on the wind. So let's imagine that we can keep those ropes in our hands and steer those sails and get where we want to get. Yes, we get off course once in a while, but we can correct that course. Neuroencoding allows you to correct your life course. And it's not only for, it's for business owners. It's not only the mindset, because mindset is very important. But if you don't have the tools, or if you don't have the brain capacity, and it's not about being smart or stupid, it's just your brain works in a certain way, you need to course correct that. A great story Tony Robbins says on stage is about him and 3 business partners. I don't know if you've ever heard. The phenomenal story is that they were being in a bad situation with another business that was trying to buy them out. And 3 business owners, all of 3 of them, reacted differently. One, when they left, went ballistic, started throwing things. I'm pissed off, and started cursing, just went off the grid. Tony was cursing and he was mad, but not throwing things. And the 3rd business partner was saying, well, I'm peeved. And Tony's like, what do you mean you're not pissed off? You're not raging? No, I'm peeved. Remember, they were all in the same situation, 3 different reactions to exactly the same situation. And they started talking to each other, and the meaning they assigned to the event and the power that they gave to the event was very different. The guy that was peeved believed that if he loses control, he lets them win. And that was very important to him, to be the one who keeps it calm. Tony was angry and he felt betrayed. The other guy thought it was the end of the world. The same situation, 3 different people, 3 different reactions. Those reactions are a choice, and it's our program that has been built over the years. We cannot change the past, yet we can change how we look at the past. And that's really, really important, because how you look at the past will influence the present and the future.
Yeah. And so it just sounds to me that, if we're going to do exercise plans, or if we're going to, get control of our weight and our, flexibility, our strength, we have an exercise plan to attack the, the areas of weakness, or the areas of, improvement that we need to focus on in, the physical space. Same thing with the mental space, and just kind of historically within the last, 30, 40 years or beyond, that's mainly been going to psychologists and, just kind of going back and forth there. But it sounds like there's maybe like an extension of that, like another supplemental approach that looks at both the
shortcut.
Say it again.
It's a shortcut.
Yeah. It looks like at the medical, as as well as, the psychological, and there's a space there to look at, actual, reports, blood work, things that you're just, there are kind of obvious ways to, approach different situations or receive feedback, or in that example, how to approach, poor or an extraordinary situation, and, what's your usual responses in those situations. Let me ask you this. So the process there is you kind of get reports, blood work, you ask questions, and then you put a plan together. You have some, you're obviously talking with the client. How do you measure success? Is that mostly emotional, or is there, I think you mentioned, the blood work. Sometimes there's, you're not at the optimal level. Do you measure both those reports as well as just the overall being of the person that you're working with, or
So first of all, success is something that you feel. Everybody has a different definition of success. Something that I might consider success, if you don't consider it successful, I failed. Because it's you who is changing their life. My life, I'm working on that with my coach, and I have two coaches, one business coach, one private coach, because I've learned that working with a coach, it just takes way shorter. I don't have time to be going through. They ask the right questions, they trigger me, think I'm like, oh, okay, so let me try this. I create new habits. If it works, great. If it doesn't, I'll adjust. So for me, it is a way of living now. Yet for me, it is also very important that you understand your blood work. And it's because I don't want you to be stuck with me forever. I want you to be gone no longer than in 2 years. I don't want to see you ever again. I want you to move on and not need me because they have enough tools. That's a very different approach. Most of my clients leave after a year, not because they're unhappy, but because they're done. And now I left 1, 2, 3, 4 coaches so far after about a year and a half of working with them, because what they could offer me, I already took, and I was ready to move on to another level, and I needed a break, and I wanted to first kind of put the things in perspective and then go, okay, what else would I want to work on to improve my life? So we do look at the blood work. Obviously, I cannot prescribe any medication, but I can suggest um, supplements that are available on the market, and you don't need a doctor's prescription. And this is something that Dr. Amen gave to us when we read blood work. He says, okay, well, if you have this brain type and your D3, for example, is too low, well, we would want this. So you obviously, for D3, the higher doses, you would need to go to your doctor and say, I would like to raise my D3 to a level of 60. Please prescribe the right D3 strength. I can't do that. But if you have a holistic doctor, they will get it. They will understand that. And then we set our plan. What do you want to achieve in those sessions? Because ultimately, it is your life. It is you who's doing the work. I'm just kind of a guide, and I know how to open different doors in your head so you can come with the best solution for me. Because what works for me might not work for you. Yes, my toolbox is big, so I'll give you a lot of choices what you can work with. But at the end of the day, you're the one living that life, not me. So I want you to be, it's hard work. It is, because you have to take responsibility for your life. You have to say, hey, I messed up. So what do I do to make my life better? What do I do so I am happier? What do I do so I don't attract the people that are, there's so many people in this world that are so miserable. They say, oh, I'm happy, I'm good, I'm okay. They're not okay. I mean, if you are okay with an average life, then definitely I'm not a person for you. If you want extraordinary life, you want a phenomenal relationship, not a good relationship, great relationships with other people, enjoying every day of your life, yes, I'm the person. But if you're okay with sometimes being happy, sometimes being unhappy, and just living a mundane life, and that's also very important, please enjoy that life the way you like it. If you want more, then we decide together what you want to work on, and we set goals. And then I ask you at the end of the session, did you achieve what you wanted to achieve in that session? Okay, if you did, so this is your course of action for next 2 weeks. I'll see you in 2 weeks, and we'll keep working on it. Obviously, my clients text with me in between, and they ask questions when something comes up. Sometimes we get on a call in between sessions. That's kind of the personal approach, which you don't have with a therapist or a psychologist. Your hour and a half is gone. Thank you. I'll see you in a month. With coaches, that's why we have very limited number of people that we work with, because you literally can text me in the morning, and in a few hours you'll get an answer, or I'll call you back because something is happening that you don't know. You need to unblock yourself. When we have the writer's block or creativity block, and we're like sitting there going, I'm stuck. I don't know where to go next. Well, sometimes you need a friend to unstuck you. That's why you have coaches, and that's just one of the ways. So we do measure your success, but it's measured by your feeling of achievement. Because if you don't feel you have achieved something, it doesn't really matter what I think.
Are you currently working with salespeople, business owners?
I do.
So if you don't mind, give us, a couple of tidbits, maybe like a top 3 to 4 things that that you see with business owners or salespeople that come in that, typically, just me as a salesperson, I've been through, I mean, hundreds of hours of, sales conferences. I mean, video watching, of, where your mindset needs to be on a sales call, especially in now, almost a year and a half in for business ownership. That brings another level to the game in terms of, putting out fires, being, preemptively putting out fires, and just being in situations that, kind of like, again, that example that you put, someone's going to just freak out, and someone's going to be betrayed, and then someone's going to be,
Right.
kind of reserved. What are some common things that you see with business owners, sales professionals, that you feel could be a benefit for using, your service, going back and forth and setting a plan for just kind of high productive, highly motivated individuals that are, basically kind of come into situations and obstacles that they face?
I think first that I would like to remind all business owners and people who work in business is that however they created their identity and values, it is what they get. So if you perceive yourself only as a business owner, you will create your behavior around that, and your behavior will breed certain results. And it's not you being bad or wrong. It is just the behavior you're representing and the values you have. So if you change those, meaning that you're a human, don't forget that you're a human being, because being a business owner can come and go, and the need of being validated by success in our society is being pushed. If I would draw your attention to people who are highly successful, like Kate Spade, like what was his name? Robin Williams. They were highly successful, achieved absolutely everything, and they were miserable. Because what brings us joy is the journey, not the end result. And that's one thing that if you concentrate on appreciating the journey, and there are 2 schools of that. You can appreciate the journey and make it literally, I make it a habit of writing down my little successes in a day. Because what we do, we forget how much we can achieve in a lifetime, and we overestimate what we can achieve in a year. And that's very, very important, because we put pressure and unachievable goals. There are 2 schools, 2-millimeter shifts and burn your boats. Both schools are different for different people. I'm a 2-millimeter shift. And that comes from the experience of my friends who are pilots. Ask any pilot, if you change by 2 millimeters your course, let's say you're flying from Honolulu to New York. If you change that course by 2 millimeters and you do not adjust along the trip, you end up in South America or a totally different place. You're nowhere near. So assuming that we're making a plan, this is how it's going to go, lack of flexibility is something that generates stress. Now, you as a business owner, if you produce too much cortisol, it actually influences your prefrontal cortex, which is sane decision making and good decision making. You actually take that away from you. The balance, no matter how, I mean, yes, there are some people who wake up at 5 a.m., but that's their natural rhythm. Elon Musk, who I'm not the biggest fan of when it comes to his personality, even he got to a point, he said, well, sleeping 4 hours a night is not sustainable. I stopped making, literally science says that if you don't sleep 7 to 9 hours, your decision making is impaired. There is a study on soldiers done, and over a year, few thousand soldiers, and some were deprived, and they would sleep 4 hours a night, 5, 6, 7, 8. When they slept below 8, their accuracy for shooting was down to 80%. If it was at 6, it was at 40%. If it was at 4, it was at 20%. Would you like a soldier to protect you at 20% accuracy? Well, if you're a business owner, that's exactly the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So I think being a business owner is one part of our identity. Yet we need to remember that at the end of the day, we're human and we need to be feasible, grounded, and feel at whole and knowing what we're doing. So people will follow us, not because we have the title, but because they trust us. And that's the energy we bring.
Yeah. Sleep is an interesting one because, um, business professionals, business owners, especially high performing, there was a time period where, I'd have people come up to me and say, I'm only on, 2, 3 hours sleep. I don't have any time. And in some cases, it's almost like a trophy, that
Mhm.
they're carrying because they're working so
Absolutely.
much and they're so productive. At the same time, it's almost one of those things that you have to factor into the cost of the product or service that you're putting in, because that time is extremely important for you and those around you. Just as you said, to make good quality decisions and then be present in that moment. If you're talking with somebody and they're extremely tired, or they take 20 minutes to answer a question or something like that because they just can't you know go through that brain activity the same way. I mean, that's an extraordinary thing, and we're talking maybe what the difference of, in some cases, folks that have, 3 or 4 hours of sleep versus another 3 hours. And I think that is just as important, scheduling that as it is scheduling everything else in the
Absolutely.
business. Um, that's some really good advice. So business owners, professionals, if they want to get in contact with you, if they have employees that they're working with, do you have videos that you put out there specifically for that space, or is it all kind of you know s- kind of different areas that you look at?
So, as a brain coach, a lot of things come into that, right? So, if you go to my Facebook page, which is YourCoachD, or Instagram, Your Brain Coach D, you can find different videos. They're called coaching pill on different subjects. And they're literally coaching pills. They're 90-second videos, not longer. Um, Now, I do specialize in brain and brain development. So, with that being said, I'm not a business coach. So, I will not be concentrating on your business to take your business to the next level. I can recommend some amazing coaches that do that. I will when you work with me, you will take your business to the next level, but with a different approach, because you will be a better human, or I wouldn't say better functioning human, because you're a great human after all. Yet you will be better functioning human with much more self-awareness, what you're doing, how that influences others. One thing that I've learned from Tony Robbins and great business is that offer more value than people expect. And that's the advice I give to everybody. I hope that when you talk to me today, you got value, although it was just a conversation. Some things were triggered, or you got thinking, that is interesting. Maybe I should look into that. So give more value than people expect, and those people will come back. And if they will not use your services, they will refer your services, because they might not be in the place. So I use your services because I needed them. Somebody referred me to you, right? If you would have reached out to me on your own 6 months ago, I wasn't ready to do that. But I would have remembered if the conversation was great and the value was great to come back to you 6 months later. Not everything happens now, and it's just a numbers game. How many people you talk to, how many people you hear, how many people enjoyed your service so they can refer you. Most of my clients are referred,
Mhm.
and they just go, look, talk to her, take her services because it helped me function in this or that situation, or it changed my mindset, or I'm just much more relaxed now, or I don't stress as much. And stress takes away their stress is good because it saves us. Right? If a lion is chasing you, you want to be stressed. You
Yeah.
don't want to be all relaxed. Yet we don't have many lions chasing us. So permanent stress is not a good thing. So if you want to reach out to me, definitely there's email yourcoachd@gmail.com, and you can reach out to me that way. You can give me a call. My phone number is on my website. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm also an HR manager for an IT company. So there are multiple ways you can reach out to me, or you can just watch the videos, share the videos, and learn from them. And when you're ready, give me a shout out.
Yeah, so I'll have all that information before and after the video here, and so the videos that you put out are Facebook on Facebook primarily, the coaching pill. Is that correct?
Facebook, Instagram, and now a YouTube channel of all of them is being built. And over there are other interviews that are like 45-minute long on mindset, and so they're kind of building up, as I found that formula to be actually very useful. And a lot of people have this, my little beginning, good morning, afternoon, and evening. This is your coach D. And people sometimes go, oh, good morning, afternoon, and evening. I'm like, oh my God, you're listening. So I'm happy to be of service.
Well, Coach D, I'll go ahead and cap the conversation here. I'll give it to you. If you have a message for those watching, go ahead and close us out.
I think the message is that you are the most important person in the world. And if you are not happy, you cannot share or make anybody else happy. If you're not whole, you cannot support and provide. So take care of yourself, and the world will look at you differently. Because if you change the way you look at the world will look different, and you'll experience it differently. Much better, definitely much better approach than fighting reality.
Coach D, I thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, it was a pleasure.